Most traders don't realize this, but the traders who become wealthy, truly wealthy, aren't the ones winning the biggest trades. They're the ones losing small. Again and again. Predictably. Intentionally. And when I say that, most people look at me like I've just spoken in riddles. But let me give you a quick story. Years ago, I knew two traders. One had a habit of swinging for the fences, always looking for the massive home run win. The other took tiny, controlled losses every day, almost like he was brushing crumbs off the table. After 12 months, the home run chaser was down 40%. The crumb sweeper? He was up 6 figures. Now let me ask you, how is it possible that losing more often can make you richer? Why do small, repeated losses create stability, while big wins create chaos? And what if the one thing standing between you and profitability isn't your ability to win, but your willingness to lose correctly? If you've ever stared at your chart with your stomach in knots because a trade is going against you, you know the feeling. If you've ever watched a small loss grow and grow because you were sure it would turn around, or if you've ever widened your stop because you couldn't emotionally accept the hit, or worse, removed your stop completely because you wanted to give your trade a little more room, then you've lived through the very pain that destroys accounts. Maybe you've told yourself, it's just a temporary pullback, or the market is just shaking out weak hands, or it'll come back, it has to come back. Maybe you've been in a trade where the loss becomes so large that closing it feels like a funeral, so you hold on, hoping the market will resurrect it like some kind of miracle. And maybe, just maybe, you've had that moment where your hands are on your head, your jaw clenched, and you're thinking, how did I let it get this bad? But let me ask you, how many times has a small loss ever destroyed your month? And how many times has a big loss destroyed your confidence, your focus, or your entire account? The truth is, most traders lose big because they follow a broken philosophy. They believe winning big is the path to success. They believe accuracy equals profitability. They believe the goal is to avoid losses, not manage them. This thinking blinds them. It causes them to protect their ego instead of their equity. They cling to losing trades because closing them feels like admitting failure. They hold winners too short because they're desperate to feel right. And when you trade from a place of ego, fear, and illusion, you end up making the worst decisions at the worst possible times. In reality, the wealthiest traders aren't trying to be right. They're trying to survive. And that mental shift alone creates an entirely different path. They expect to lose small. They almost welcome it. They don't fear it, because they know those small losses are the fee they pay to stay in the game long enough to catch the right move. Let me give you 2 examples. One trader refuses to take a $50 stop because the trade isn't done yet, and ends up losing $700. Another takes the $50 hit immediately, resets, refocuses, and catches a clean $300 move an hour later. Over weeks, that difference becomes massive. Let me paint this with a metaphor you won't forget. Imagine you're standing at the shoreline as waves crash in. Some waves are small, some are huge. Now imagine trying to resist every wave, pushing against them with all your strength, refusing to let them move you. It's impossible. The water will drag you, flip you, overpower you. That's what fighting losing trades feels like. But imagine instead that you let the small waves hit you, move around you, wash over you while you remain balanced. You're not resisting, you're adapting. And because you're not exhausting yourself fighting every movement, you have the energy to swim when the perfect wave comes, the wave that can carry you forward. This is how professional traders survive. They absorb the small losses, the small waves. They let them pass. They don't panic. They don't widen stops. They don't resist reality. They stay centered. Now ask yourself, when the market pushes against you, do you flow or do you fight? Let's go deeper and look at the principles behind becoming wealthy through small losses. The first principle is emotional neutrality. A small loss means nothing to a pro. It doesn't shift their mood, their confidence, their belief in the system. But for most beginners, even a tiny red candle feels like a personal attack. I remember working with a trader who felt punched in the chest every time a trade went against him, even by a few dollars. His emotional state was tied to the result of each individual trade. The moment he learned to normalize small losses, to see them as the cost of doing business, everything changed. He stopped over-defending losing trades. He stopped holding through pain. He began thinking like a shop owner. A few products will spoil. A few customers will return items. It's normal. Small losses are inventory expenses, nothing more. The moment you detach your identity from each individual outcome, your decision-making becomes cleaner. The takeaway here is simple. Treat losses like receipts, not verdicts. The second principle is statistical dominance. When your losses are small, your winners don't need to be massive to make you profitable. You create mathematical gravity that pulls your equity upward. I once saw a trader win only 35% of her trades, but end the year up 22%. She didn't win big. She simply refused to lose big. Her average loss was $40. Her average win was $110. She wasn't chasing home runs. She was playing probability. Contrast that with the trader who wins 70% of his trades, but gives it all back with one oversized disaster loss. You can guess who ends the year negative. When small losses are consistent, your system becomes anti-fragile. It can weather drawdowns without collapsing. The key phrase here is, small losses protect big opportunities. The third principle is psychological recovery. When you lose small, you recover fast. You stay sharp. You stay focused. You stay calm. But when you lose big, your brain goes into survival mode. You stop thinking clearly. You start trading emotionally, desperately trying to make the money back. Your judgment becomes foggy, impulsive, reckless. I've watched brilliant traders crumble after one catastrophic loss. They didn't blow up from the loss itself. They blew up from how it changed their mindset. That's why small losses are healthy. They inoculate you. They strengthen your emotional immune system. They teach you to stay rational under pressure. The takeaway is, small losses keep your mind in the game. Now let's shift into the counterintuitive insights that only experienced traders truly understand. The first one, the more you avoid small losses, the bigger your eventual losses become. Avoidance accumulates risk. If you refuse to take the small hit now, you're signing up for a bigger one later. And here's the second one. Taking a small loss is often the most profitable decision of your entire day. Not because it makes money, but because it stops you from losing much more. Sometimes the money you save is more valuable than the money you make. This is why the best traders say things like, "I'm proud of how I managed my loss." Beginners hear that and think, what? Proud of losing? But pros understand the deeper truth. Now let's talk about training yourself, conditioning your mind to embrace small losses. One of my favorite exercises is the intentional stop-loss drill. For an entire week, you commit to taking every stop-loss instantly, without hesitation, without negotiation. No moving stops. No giving trades extra breathing room. No, it's just a wick. You train your brain to execute losses with confidence. At first, it feels awful. It feels like quitting. But gradually, your mind rewires. You start associating small losses with strength, not weakness. Another exercise is the 2-minute reset. After a loss, you step away for 2 minutes. You breathe. You reset. You let your emotional temperature cool. This stops revenge trading dead in its tracks. A third exercise. Journal every big loss you've ever had and write the same reflection at the bottom of each page. This could have been avoided by taking the small loss earlier. After 10 pages, trust me, the lesson sticks. Let's bring in a predator metaphor now to cement this concept. Picture a falcon perched on a cliff. It doesn't dive at every movement below. It doesn't waste energy chasing every mouse that scurries through the grass. It waits. And when it does strike, the strike is clean, efficient, decisive. But here's the interesting part. The falcon doesn't mind missing. It doesn't mind failed attempts. If it swoops and the prey gets away, it simply returns to its perch and resets. It doesn't spiral into frustration. It doesn't dive again recklessly. It preserves its energy. It preserves its advantage. Because the falcon knows, survival isn't about catching every prey. It's about never exhausting yourself on the wrong one. In trading, small losses are your missed swoops. They cost little. They keep you sharp. They keep you ready. Do you trade like that falcon? Clean attempts, small misses, big winners. Or do you trade like a frantic bird flapping around, exhausting itself chasing everything? As we reach the end, I want you to see yourself differently. You are not someone who needs to win big to succeed. You are someone who gets rich by losing well. You're someone who understands the deeper game. Picture two traders standing at the start of their careers. One says, "I'm going to win big." The other says, "I'm going to manage small losses better than anyone." 10 years later, guess who's still standing? Guess who's still funded? Guess who's living free? I've watched traders evolve through this mindset shift. One student told me, "I stopped trying to win trades. I started trying to survive trades. And suddenly I started winning." Another said, "Small losses don't scare me anymore. They empower me." That's the identity you need to adopt. So here is your mantra. Burn it into your mind. Small losses are tuition. Big losses are expulsion. Don't get expelled. Keep your losses tiny. Keep your mindset strong. Keep your edge alive. Starting today, I want you to make one promise to yourself. I will never let a small loss grow into a big one. If you live by that single sentence, you will protect your account, protect your progress, and protect your future. And if you stick with it long enough, you will discover the truth most traders never learn. Wealth doesn't come from winning big. It comes from losing small. Now go trade like someone who understands the real game.